Respected Honorable Sir, Namaskaram. So my question is based on the construction. Okay. So my question is based on the construction of Chabahar port in Iran in collaboration with India, which showcases strong diplomatic ties between the strong diplomatic ties between the two nations, considering the potential for sanctions from US and European nations. Could you elaborate on the benefits that India will gain from this deal?
The question, in case you didn't hear, was he asked me about Chabahar port, which we have just signed an agreement for in Iran. But before I come to that, I want to say a few things. First of all, I'm really very, very pleased to be here in DTA school in Lodi Estate for many reasons, but one important reason is that this is the school where my wife studied. So for me, there's a historical association. The second thing which I wanted to say, I would like all of you also and those in the audience to think about it. Just make three very quick points, one about the past, one about the present, and one about the future. The point about the past is that whether we like it or not, the world will come at India, towards India, within India. So it is very important we understand the world. One of our big mistakes 300 years ago, when the Europeans first came to India, we didn't understand them. We didn't appreciate or we didn't gauge their intentions. But from that till today, I mean, even if I look at something like COVID started somewhere in some other country, but eventually it came and took over all our life. So it's very important we are interconnected with the world, and we should always keep that in mind. About the present, I want to say, the world is today looking very difficult. There is a war in Ukraine, there are issues with Israel, Gaza, Israel, Iran. You asked about Chabahar. Our own borders, we have issues with China in the north, Pakistan, there is the cross-border terrorism issue. There in Asia, South China Sea, a lot of other tensions. And in all of that, the economic situation of the world is very difficult. And why I say this is, it's very important when we look at the future, that we think of how to take India safely through a storm. There is a storm around us. The storm is building. It is going to get worse. But it is absolutely vital that we have, a safe pair of hands, good, sensible people who take us through a very difficult period. And the third about the future, because it concerns all of you and all of you. The world I'm not even talking 10 years from now. In the next 4 or 5 years, the world is going to change dramatically in terms of what the impact of AI, artificial intelligence, is going to be. We are going to see technologies and their application on a scale which we haven't seen. All of you would be familiar with ChatGPT. Okay? ChatGPT is the smallest trailer of what is going to happen in our lives. Many more very, very big things are going to happen. So whether it is the past, whether it is the present, whether it is the future, it is absolutely vital all of you take an interest in what is happening in the world. And when you all make choices, whatever the choices, it is very important that the world should be in your mind when you are making those choices. When you think of what is good for India, you must think of what is good for India vis-a-vis this one. So I just wanted to make those points. Your question about Chabahar. We've been trying for almost 20 years now to have an agreement with Iran. We could have like a short-term agreement because there were a lot of problems on their side. But actually, in recent months, thanks to, in fact, the two people who unfortunately died yesterday in the helicopter crash, the President of Iran and the Foreign Minister of Iran. Because of their interest and their initiative, we were actually able to finalize a long-term agreement. This is very important because if you look, today one of the big things in the world is how do you make connectivity corridors? And the connectivity corridor is if you go through India, Gujarat, Maharashtra, go through Iran by sea, from Iran to Central Asia or to Azerbaijan, then to Russia, you can actually all the way go up to Northern Europe. We are also looking at something through Saudi Arabia, which will take us into Southern Europe. We are looking at something through Myanmar, which will take us all the way till Vietnam, Pacific Ocean. So these corridors are built. India's position, because we will be very much at the center of this whole thing, it will actually benefit us. So the Chabahar port agreement actually is something bigger than a port. It is part of a connectivity change that we are looking at, and that's why we are very keen to go forward.
आदरणीय मंत्री महोदय, जय हिंद। सर, मैं आपसे ये पूछना चाहता हूँ कि बिल्कुल बेसिक लेवल पर, बिल्कुल ज़मीनी स्तर पर शिक्षा प्रणाली में हम ऐसे क्या बदलाव करें जिनसे हमारी आने वाली पीढ़ी कौशलों से परिपूर्ण हो और राष्ट्र निर्माण में अपना महत्वपूर्ण योगदान दे सके। और इसके अलावा भारत का भविष्य होने के नाते हम ऐसे कौन से क्षेत्र हैं जिन पर हम ध्यान दें, जिनसे हम भारत निर्माण में एक अपना महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभा सकें। धन्यवाद सर।
थैंक यू, बहुत अच्छा सवाल है। आई थिंक इन मैनी वेज आंसर was something I hinted in my first remark. हम लोग जो हैं, खासकर मैं अपनी पीढ़ी की बात कर रहा हूँ, आपके बारे में नहीं, हम लोग जो हैं जब शिक्षा के बारे में सोचते हैं, we think of good marks. We should. We think of studying hard, of remembering many things, applying some of what we remember to what we are studying. But what I think is changing now is how to be more creative. How to, when आप लोग यूनिवर्सिटी जाएंगे in a year, okay, some will go little bit later. I'll tell you a very interesting change I discovered. I go a lot to university. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when I used to go to university, they will say at the end, please meet these 3 students, 5 students. They are the gold medalists of the university. Today, people say, please meet these 7 students. They actually have patents. They have startups. They have done something which is relevant to the employment place, to technology, to progress, or they have some recognition by some society. So मुझे लगता है कि we today have to re-look at education in a very much more, not in the old way, in a more contemporary way. And that is why the new education policy, the idea that the syllabus is more practical. See, we have to produce people who, when they finish studies, are ready to work. If we produce people who have a degree but they cannot work, there is a gap. किसी को तो भरना होगा वो gap. और बहुत लोग भरते नहीं हैं, वो वहीं के वहीं रह जाते हैं. So that is why today this change is to come, and I'm very glad that you asked this and you appreciate.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I welcome questions from the audience.
So my question to you is, did you face any challenge in organizing an event like G20 summit in 2023? We could see perfect blend of Indian diplomacy and Indian customs. So how did you manage this so smoothly?
Did we face challenges? Yes, we faced many challenges. Normally people say that you work so hard, your hair will turn white. My hair is already white. So I didn't have that problem. But, the kind of challenge, 2-3 examples I'll give you. Normally, any conference which happens, you do the conference in Delhi. Okay, that is our tradition. Now, this time, come, please sit down. This time we decided that we will do this conference because Prime Minister Modi was very keen every state of India, every union territory of India must take part in this conference. So this is like, just imagine if I tell you organize a party, but you have to now organize the party in 60 different cities. How much more difficult it is. Second thing, we did something which nobody else did. Every place where there was a G20 event, we also asked, told the local city, local people, local state, so you also please do functions of your own. School, college, professional organization. So it was what we call Jan Bhagidar. We wanted people's participation in it. But the third and I would say most difficult part was there was a problem among the G20. The 20 countries did not agree on some very, very important things. So till the very end there was a lot of tension. Can we actually get the 20 countries to agree to a single outcome? And that took a lot of effort. It really, literally actually last 48 hours, nobody slept. We kept negotiating till we finally arrived at that. So it was frankly a very difficult effort, very worthwhile effort. But the lesson, for all of us, because we will have more responsibilities like this in the future. Lesson, I think, for all of us is that how do you have the relationships? How do you have, get a image with different countries so that when something is important for you, they will all agree with you. That I think was the big takeaway from the G20 experience.
Good afternoon, sir. I am having one question regarding POK, sir. We are hearing from many big people that POK will get India. It will become a part of India very soon and all. Sir, do you think it will prove beneficial to us considering the decades of problems we have been having with our own Kashmir? Do you think it is going to prove beneficial to us if it gets aligned with India?
See, I don't think people are saying POK will be part of India. POK was always part of India. Okay? So what has happened, POK, for reasons we all know, is currently occupied by Pakistan. Now, what we are seeing lot of ferment in POK. We can only speculate why are people getting excited in POK. One reason could be that they are seeing the progress in Kashmir Valley, and then they are saying, their life is getting better. Why should I be left behind? Maybe that's the reason. Your question about looking at the Kashmir experience, what should we think about POK? Look, please do not blame the people of Kashmir for any problems that there have been for the last 8 years. It is a small section of the leadership there and the leadership here which have caused the problem. If you see today, once you bring normalcy to Kashmir, once you totally integrate them with India, immediately what happens? We have, some of us have been there and seen. Suddenly, economy picks up, tourism picks up, people start going to school, medical colleges start up, businesses grow, international flights happen. All this could have happened before. But a small section of people wanted to keep it backward because they were getting benefits out of it. And they were propagating their political view, whatever it was at that time. So, we feel today actually Kashmir is a good example of what happens when there is good governance, when you tell people very honestly, these are the benefits of the choices that you can make, and you will immediately see the benefits of that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question.
Good afternoon, respected Honorable Minister, sir. Sir, my question to you is that in the current landscape in which the hostilities are increasing, like China, Taiwan, Israel, Palestine, Pakistan, Afghanistan, etc., what changes do you see in the near future regarding the foreign policy of India? Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a very insightful question. See, I began my remarks by saying about the present. We should all expect next 1, 2, 3 years, maybe more, to be very difficult. Because nobody expected that there will be a war in Ukraine. Okay? Even when it started, people felt, okay, maybe it will take a few weeks, few months. We are now into the third year of the war. No end in sight. Okay? Nobody expected in October that there will be this kind of attack on Israel, that, this amount of killing and damage would be done, or that when Israel responded, it will go on for so long. It's already over 6 months. Now, I'm giving you these two examples, that what is happening today is, once the world, there is some conflict, some problem, you turn on the switch, very difficult to turn off. That once a problem starts, it tends to pick up on its own. What we need in India, we need peace. Peace for ourselves, peace for the world, but even if there is no peace for the world, at least for ourselves. We need growth, we need progress, we need all of you, because, many of you are fortunate that in this country, for 25 years, we have not seen war. Okay? When I was your age, I had seen the 65 war, I was 10 years old. I saw the 71 war, I was 16 years old. I saw, our intervention in Sri Lanka. I went there as on duty. We saw the Kargil war in 99. So, the best thing you can wish for any country is to actually see peace, prosperity, and the best way to do that is actually to have a foreign policy which will make sure we don't, we contribute to peace in the world, but we ourselves secure our borders. We are strong enough to deter other countries, and that we, in a way, are able to practice our diplomacy. We can contribute. Even in Ukraine, we are trying to do some things. In the case of when things became very difficult between Iran and Israel, we actually spoke to both of them, to the same foreign minister who died yesterday. So my diplomacy can make a difference, but the first thing we must remember for our diplomacy is, it is Bharat first. We must make sure Bharat is secure, Bharat is at peace, that terrorist attacks are not carried out against our country. If there are, we must make sure there is a strong punishment of those people who have carried out these attacks. Then I think we will be in a much more secure situation.
Thank you, sir. Now I would request the first-time voters to ask the questions.
Hello. Very afternoon, Dr. Jaishankar, and to everyone present here today. Sir, it's an honor to be in your presence today. My question to you is, Bharat has a huge potential to develop in the next 25 years, but the major issue we face is of brain drain. How does the government plan on tackling this situation? Additionally, in the past, many countries have had the policy of mandatory service to the nation, like conscription. Do you think maybe a variation of this kind of a policy could be beneficial for Bharat? Thank you.
If we do conscription, every year about 2 crore people will have to join the armed forces. So if you give them even 3 years of service, that means 6 crore people. So a country like India doesn't need conscription. In fact, when we have military, we have a military, enough people are with, in many countries, people don't want to join the military. Whatever reason, maybe their way of expressing Desh Bhakti is different. But in our country, people are willing to join the military, the army, the air force, the navy. Today it's a matter of pride, even women are joining the military. The policy has changed. We have been very progressive there. So what we need is more than a solution like conscription. how to get people, young people, aware about the country, aware about the future, aware about how they can contribute. They can contribute in different ways. You know, a person who's a great technologist, a person who has invented something in drones. You know, I went to this university in Trivandrum, Thiruvananthapuram. It's a university which is run by the Space Department. Okay? These are people who are doing the BSc and MSc. Many of them have actually invented things which have gone into the space. Okay? So, how to contribute, how to get that feeling very widespread. And I feel the young people want to do that. But the first way to contribute is please go and vote. You know, that is your first contribution. That start by voting. Because it's your choice, it's your country, it's your leadership. If you do not associate yourself with that exercise, you are failing your country. So that would actually be my, message to you. But the brain drain issue which you are talking about, see, if we give enough opportunities to people, people will not go abroad or come back from abroad to India. Our problem is not enough opportunities within the country. And that is why today we have to change the economy, we have to change education, we have to create more kind of industries. I'll give you one example. You know, so many Indians go abroad to work in high-tech industries. Okay? Every tech firm you look at, you know, it looks like DTA has made a contribution there. Huh? So that's the character of all the tech industries of the world. Now, if we can start a big semiconductor industry in India, which Modi government wants to do, this is one of the things which is a priority for us. We have just signed the first agreement for a fab with a Taiwanese company. Another Indian company is going to set up a fab by themselves. In this whole semiconductor world, number of other initiatives and investments are coming up. Now, semiconductors is an enormous, it's today the world's leading industry. That is where people are going. That's where the money is going. That's where the technology is going. Now, if somebody could get a chance to head a technology company or to be in a senior position, why would they go abroad? So, we need to improve at home. That's the answer.
Thank you so much, sir. Now we are having the next 10 minutes for the first time voters of our school. Since I can see the eagerness in the students. Yes.
Good evening, Honorable Minister, sir. Sir, my question is, what steps, according to you, should be made to ensure that the economic condition of a student does not become a barrier in his or her education?
You know, there's not a single answer to this. There are many aspects to that answer. One part would be actually to expand the education system, to create many more schools and colleges and technical institutions, to make them affordable, which means in many cases there can be private education, but government in our country has a very important role in making education affordable and accessible. That's one. Second, I would say in many cases, depending on which level we are talking about, to give the support, to give the scholarships. Because if you look today, even in developed countries, there is, for talented students, there is a big scholarship scheme. Many people go to study on that. Third, I would say, if for those who can take loan from banks, etc., to make that easier. But fourth, for those who come from underprivileged background, there has to be a recognition of that. And, that is why for many years we've had the practice of reservation. That reservation is justified because that is the way of creating a level playing field. In a way, I would say it's a kind of mix of all of this. But overall today, it's very, very important to just increase the number of educational institutions in this country. Because if you look at the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s even, there were, you look how many IITs, how many IIMs, even how many schools, how many colleges, how many universities. I mean, India's growth rate in last 30 years is like this. If you look at education growth rate, it is like this. So, we have put great emphasis in actually increasing the number of even colleges. In the last 10 years, almost 7,000 new colleges have come up in this country. 7,000 new colleges means every day 2 new colleges are coming up. 370 new universities have come up. So I'm citing this. That is in itself not enough, because one is to create more seats, but you have to finance, access, encourage, reserve seats for that to happen.
Thank you, sir. Next question.
Good evening, Honorable Minister, sir. So we had a very good relationship with Nepal, but right now, as we see, it is more influenced by China, and Nepal is backlashing India. So my question is, what are your thoughts on this, and how do you see India's position in the world in next 10 or 20 years? Thank you.
If I understood your question, you said we had very good ties with Nepal, but now you are suggesting they are not so good.
It is more influenced with China now. Military practices and political meetings.
Okay. See, you are all young people. My first advice to you is don't believe everything you read in the press. In fact, do heavy discounting. Because suppose the press guy writes a story, India had good relations with Nepal, India still has good relations with Nepal, nobody will publish that story. So they have to write a story saying things are not going so well. So, right now, our relations with Nepal good. I give you 4 or 5 examples. I was in Nepal in January this year. Okay? I remember the first time I went to Nepal. This was in 2015. So we are talking 10 years. 10 years ago, Nepal used to get its petrol in trucks, truck by truck from India across the border. So they used to use petrol to get petrol because it was a most inefficient way of getting petrol. The cost of petrol also went up. There would be petrol shortages in that country. Today, there is a pipeline from a refinery in India which supplies petrol to Nepal. Whose refinery? Ours. Who built the pipeline? Us. One example. Example 2. My first memory of that visit, we had long power breakdown. Okay? Now, okay, we have power breakdowns in India also, but you all know that is less and less now. Sometimes you can go whole days, whole weeks, whole months without a power breakdown. Used to have regularly there. Today, power situation, very different. Why is it different? Because a grid was built from India to Nepal, carrying electricity from India to Nepal. In fact, it worked out so well, the same grid, Nepal is producing electricity and selling power to India and making money out of it. Now, if you travel by road, the roads have changed, the checkpoints have become much better. There is today a railway connection much deeper into Nepal than there has ever been. So, imagine if your power has changed, your petrol has changed, your rail has changed, your road has changed, your border checkpoints have changed, the amount of trade you do has changed. why would anybody say relations have become more difficult? In fact, if you take all this, compare what Nepal does with India, with any neighbor of, or any country, why neighbor? Any country that Nepal, how much does Nepal trade with other countries, how much does Nepal trade with India? Do the comparison. Don't listen to me. Check it out. You will get a very different answer than your question suggests.
Thank you, sir. Next question.
Good evening, sir. I'm Navita Nathan, and my question to you is that what are some changes, what are some plans in the pipeline of your government for the youth of India in the third term?
You know, we have a number of, I would say, initiatives, suggestions, some of which we've already started, some of which will be built up, intensified more. We definitely want, the first point I made to the gentleman there, how to increase educational access, educational institutions. Not only education, but skill. We want to create more skill institutions because we want people to go to an institution and be ready to work thereafter. So education and skill will get a lot of funding, a lot of priority, a lot of push. That is number one. Number two, we want to grow the startup culture in this country. We want young people to have access, to be confident if they have a good idea, what to do with that idea, how to make that idea into a business. So even the idea of loans, that we have this big scheme called Mudra loan. We want to actually increase the amount under the Mudra loan. We want to fund people. Now, it depends on what kind of young people you are talking. Now, sometimes you have young people who are already working. People who are working in shops, people you may be seeing who are selling things on the street. Now, all these people borrow money at very, very high rates. And this is very tough on them. Now, we have a scheme called Swanidhi, where these people who are today running their own businesses, however small, even somebody with a cart, how do you give them money at much cheaper rates so that they are able to actually run their businesses? See, in this country, we have government employment, we have private employment, and we have self-employment. What the government is trying to do is to make sure government employment, because what our experience is, you may have a job, but nobody is filling the job. Many vacant jobs in the government. How do you fill all the government jobs? How do you grow the business so that there are more private sector business created jobs in the country? And how do you support people who will actually increase the self-employment side? Because there is a very big segment. If you go around most countries in the world, self-employment is a very big part of employment, and we need to grow that in this country as well.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question.
Very good afternoon, sir. Sir, you have been very successful as a diplomat, and now also you are also very successful as a foreign minister. So, sir, what's the mantra behind your success that we students can learn?
Well, I don't know if I can tell you that there's any secret, single formula or anything. I can only say 2-3 things from my own experience. One, if you study something or if you work on something which interests you, you will do well. And I say this from my own experience. I don't recommend my experience to other people, okay? I mean, everybody has their own experience, but I was initially a science student. I switched my stream, and I was much more interested in the social science, in the political science, international stream. The moment I got more interested actually my performance became better. Following on that, by passing UPSC, joining the Foreign Service, I actually got to work on a subject in which I had an interest. So, study in a subject on which you have interest. If you work on a subject on which you have interest, I think that also makes a big difference. I was lucky that in my initial years, I found people who took interest in you, who kind of encouraged you, helped you. I tried to pass it on now to younger people as well. So having a good mentor or set of mentors, I think that is a great blessing. We should never forget mentors, never forget people. To some extent, I would say also to have a good peer group. That when I look at my friends and the people with whom at different points of time I feel all of us helped each other. I mean, we were all about the same age, where many of us sort of grew in that job or in that line of work together. And to some extent, for me, because this is as a diplomat, and in a way, politics and diplomacy have something to do with each other. See, they are both very people-centric. In diplomacy, in politics, it's very important to have relationships. If I were to say you and I have a meeting, I will make sure I know as much about you as possible. I want to click in that meeting. I want this, that how to build chemistry with people. It's something you learn. But all these other factors help you actually go in that direction. So when I moved, because I did almost 40 years in one stream. After 40 years, it's not so easy to adjust to something else. Partly I adjusted to politics because, as I said, it's also a very people-centered profession. But I was also, like I said, people help you. In politics, other ministers, including especially Prime Minister, they knew I was new to politics. They made a very special effort to try and make you comfortable, to teach you really how politics works. They kind of, I don't want to say handheld you, but in a kind of way that is true.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I have a question for you, something related to this, but I'm not asking you for the mantra. Which role do you enjoy more? I mean, which role did you enjoy, as a diplomat or as a politician now? Which is more interesting?
So the question, for those of you who didn't hear it, is which role do I enjoy more, as a diplomat or as a politician? I think, you grow from one to the other. In my case, I can't today as a politician say I would like to be a diplomat. I still am part diplomat. Yes, you use diplomacy in politics, but I would say this, for me, these 5 years in politics, actually, I have one more mantra. You can always learn, however old you are, or however young you are. Because I tell people, I still learn new things. I learn new things because as a politician, I go and meet a much broader section of people than I would if I was a diplomat. And many of them know things, have done things, have problems, have solutions which I don't. The second, when I say you can never stop learning, especially when it comes to technology. Most people my age, we look at our children, sometimes even grandchildren, for solutions. So age and smartness have nothing to do with each other. So I say this to all of you as well. So, keep learning. Never reach that stage where you've turned off that switch. It's very important to keep it going, and I've kept learning as a politician in these 5 years.
Thank you so much, sir. The next. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, sir. Good evening, sir.
Go ahead.
Good evening, sir. My question to you is, what measures is India going to take in order to counter China's imperialistic?
Let me get the other question as well.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. I want to take off from the question on education. We need to demolicize or whatever it's called, our education system, because it's still, Macaulay's things are still flowing here. And I think we've done an excellent job of introducing IKS, or BKS, better still, at the college level. Are we filtering it down to school level as well? Question one. Question two, our knowledge available in our own systems has already shown tremendous skills, strengths in areas of science, medicine, mathematics, everything. Is there any work being done to find out if there's some similar things available for newer technologies like AI or other new upcoming technologies? Is somebody working or is being encouraged to work on Vedas, related Vedangas, etc., to find out if we already have these knowledge available?
So, thank you. Let me respond first to the China question. See, China is our biggest neighbor, and what makes our two countries very different is we are the only two countries which have more than 1 billion people. We are also among the old civilizations of the world. We are very few of the old civilizations who even today continue as a modern nation state of great influence. So that makes our relationship very different. Now, what has happened is, if you look at the last 10, 20 years, India is also growing, China is also growing. Our relationship vis-a-vis the balance vis-a-vis the world is changing, and naturally we have to find a balance between India and China also, So it's, in a sense, it's a very, I would say, dynamic situation. In a dynamic situation, how do you create an equilibrium? Because they are also dynamic, we are also dynamic. World is also dynamic, by the way. World does not stop still. So everything is moving, and yet we are trying to do in diplomacy what is very difficult in physics. How to create an equilibrium between really dynamically active forces. Now, one way of doing it is to reach a set of, sit, discuss, negotiate, reach an agreement with somebody and say, let us both agree to do this, let us both agree not to do that, let us agree to where we have to work together to do it in a certain way. That's how sensible people do it. What has happened for us with China in the last 4 years, even when we had reached an agreement on some issues, they decided, for whatever reason, not to observe those agreements. So it has created a problem. We don't make a secret of it. So that problem, in fact, today has led us in India to send thousands of soldiers to the border to defend our line of actual control. So I would say, to me, the best way of dealing with China is learning to compete with China, to build the national strength in India, to build the economic strength, the technology strength, the military strength, to create a young generation with that kind of skills and talent and understanding of the future world. That will enable us actually to deal with that challenge. Which brings me to your question. How do you create that generation? Because the answer is education. So I have really two broad observations where you're concerned. Number one, when you say we are going beyond Macaulay, how do we create an authentic Indian education system? The starting point is actually to take pride in our own culture. Because if you don't take pride in your culture, if you don't see what is good at home, you're not going to be rooted sufficiently to create that kind of value-based system. There can be very, very little things, It can be what we eat, what we speak, what we observe, what we revere, what we believe in. If we start running down our own traditions, if we start dismissing them, if we equate modernity and Western, I think we have a really big problem on our hands. And that unfortunately has happened to a great degree. So even, when we are looking at schooling, it's very important, we learn what is globally the best. But to learn globally the best, we should not throw away what is best at home. It is very important to absorb all those traditions and beliefs and thinking from our parents, from our elders. That is equally important. In terms of how do we adapt education to AI, I'm giving AI as an example. I think here it will have to be a much more intensive interaction between government, business and education. Because ultimately, government and business are going to lead the AI push in this country. But they can only do it if the education system is turning out people who are really familiar, competent, conversant with all the virtues and with the possibilities of something like AI. So we are heading, I would say even in this term, we are heading actually for a very, very big change. We are heading for a very big change in education. We are heading for a very big change in application of technology. In the last 10 years, 10 years ago, Aadhaar was there. But Aadhaar was not taken seriously. None of you used Aadhaar in any serious way for anything. Today, if you look that same Aadhaar, once you start applying that Aadhaar, from your passport, your driving license, your bank account, your ration, if you are eligible for ration, your house, the entire governance system today runs on Aadhaar. So, government has to give leadership, business has to be a partner, but at the end of the day, we need that kind of education, and that is why I come back to you. We are competing with China. We need to see what is China doing in all of these fields, what other countries are doing. Prime Minister recently, in one of his interviews, he spoke about a new practice, which is actually very interesting. He said, if you bring any proposal to the cabinet, he said, please tell me along with that, what is the global best practice in that proposal? So if you want to do action policy A, please tell me in the world who else is doing what, similar to us, who is better, who is worse, what should be our reference point. So we have to create a system where our reference point is not our own, performance, but the world's best standards. And we have to, again I stress, we have to keep it rooted at home. That We need to be proud of our country, proud of our heritage, proud of our faith, proud of our languages, proud of our beliefs. If we don't inculcate that in young people, don't expect them then to take leadership position in the world.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for enriching us. Now we are going to have the last 3 questions.
Good afternoon, respected sir. So my question to you is that the government of India has introduced several schemes for the needy students. So can we look forward for some more such schemes for the betterment of educational facilities and as well as opportunities?
The next question.
Good afternoon, Honorable Minister, sir. Sir, my question is, how has G20 increased the soft power of India?
Next.
Good evening, sir. My question is that India will ever be able to overtake Japan in terms of technological development, because we know that there is a vast technological gap between India and Japan.
I was being asked, why are you asking a Japan specific question? You are trying to create problems for me. I was joking. Don't worry. You're looking worried. Okay. Look on the education issue. As I said, we very much see education, skill, I would say startup, innovation, starting a business, also I would say global opportunities. How do we create global opportunities? And global opportunities does not mean you have to always go abroad. You can also, increasingly, we expect definitely much more foreign companies to come into India, invest in India. So we're going to see a lot of this, and definitely in this we expect that girls, women, as students, as employees, as employers, as talent, would have a greater say. So it is the government's policy to promote education and talent. It is also the government's policy to ensure that women get actually the fair share of opportunities, starting from the Parliament of India, but all the way down in every sphere. Regarding the soft power, it was very interesting. I can give you many answers to how did our soft power increase. But I will actually tell you what was the most interesting thing for all the G20 delegates who came. They would leave the conference room where the meeting was taking place in Bharat Mandapam. They went to the next building. In the next building, they were given the opportunity to do shopping with cashless payment. Okay? You will be surprised. Almost nobody in their own country had actually done cashless payment. They have not done this UPI transfer which we all do so commonly and so easily. So what is the image now they leave with India? They think, oh, India, this may be back office, but now it's some kind of tech, there's a tech wizard. Here everybody, because they were actually seeing, they did not need a CEO of a tech company to demonstrate this. They actually saw it with shopkeepers, with ordinary people, with the young people who are actually escorting them and taking them around. So the strength which I can tell you, education, innovation, even Chandrayaan, how much it has done to improve our global branding. So this really makes a big difference. What your question about Japan, and don't take my joke too seriously. Look, Japan Japan, we have to learn some lessons from Japan. And one of them was how Japan used technology as a way of becoming powerful, of establishing, in a way, the brand of Japan is today a technology brand. And I would definitely, we will be overtaking Japan as the size of the economy in the next 2 or 3 years. Maybe not even that. But how do we compete with a country like Japan to create that kind of technology branding in the world? That is the kind of challenge which you young people actually can address. So once again, as I said, we all look, our job is to lay the foundation. We have done that as much as we can in the last 10 years. Your job is to take it forward for the next 25 years, and you can start your job by pressing the button on the day when you are supposed to do this. So please keep that very much in mind. Your choice will determine your country. Thank you very much.